Well, my friends, it's official. Donald Trump is now the sitting president of the United States of America, and Sleepy Joe's left the building. I tell you, man, today has been a monumentous day. I mean, the inauguration was great. That's awesome. I'm be honest, don't really care about that. I will say it's nice that finally we have Trump back in office. Everything just feels like it's a little bit better now. Just knowing that Joe isn't there to screw up stuff even more just makes me feel a little bit better. Knowing that there's someone actually in charge now. Knowing that, the person that was elected to lead the country is actually the one leading the country. That just, gives me a little bit more confidence in the way our country's working, Because beforehand, we had the meat puppet in chief, and we don't know who is running the country. But now we know. It's Donald Trump. And life's just a little bit better now. Now, obviously, Trump isn't going to be our knight in shining armor. He's not going to be, some savior coming from on high to fix the country, right? To save America from our whatever is going on, from the evils. But he will be there to at least, help us, right? He will be there to hold the door for us. Now, obviously, he's only got 4 years in office, so there's only so much that he can do. And there's only so long that he's got to do it in, right? So it's one of those things where it'll be up to us to maintain this, right? Because think about it. With the machine the way it is, the fact that Trump even got in office is already an affront to the machine. They're probably going to bow down to Trump for now because, they got 4 years. And with all the kowtowers that they've got going on in terms of, Trump's cabinet, everyone is actually loyal to Trump now instead of, the Bolton and Mark Milley and Bill Barr and all these people, right? Now he's actually got people who are going to do what he wants, right? So I think the machine is going to give Trump what he'd like to have, right? Let him have whatever it is that he wants to do. But I also think that either midterms or more likely the next election, the machine's going to come back with a vengeance. I think they're going to try extremely hard to take back the presidency, to take back the House and Senate, and even to pack the Supreme Court so they can have that back too, right? Because I don't know, honestly, that Democrats think long-term terribly well. I think they think about right now, right? I think that Democrats, and Republicans too for that matter, at least the rhinos, right? And the old guard Republicans, right? I think that they think a lot like CEOs in that all that matters is the next cycle. All that matters is the next time to where I'm measured, right? Which for politicians is either 2 years or 6 years, or in terms of presidents, 4 years, right? And I think they're looking about that far out. But I also think that, they're still going to try to take the presidency and the Senate and the House and the Supreme Court from us, right? So this is one of those things where Donald Trump will be there, right? He'll be there for 4 years. He'll do what he can. He'll drain the swamp as best he can, which, it'll hopefully go a little bit better this time since he's got a lot more help and people that aren't going to actively fight him, right? So he will help us with our country, right? He will help drain the swamp, but it'll be our job to keep it that way. It'll be our job to not let it go back. So that's one of those things, right? The fight is never over. You know how it goes, right? They always say, ain't no rest for the wicked. And in this case, I guess the Democrats are the wicked ones, but regardless, it's one of those things where even though we won so far, the fight's not over. We're going to have to do it again in 4 years because they're not going to stop. Just because they won, they're not going to stop. And we can honestly see that in what they're doing right now to Trump as is. Like, here's the thing, right? The Democrats are already trying to frustrate Trump's efforts, right? And what I mean by that is they are trying to drag out and stop his confirmations of his cabinet, which we've got from the Hill. The Senate panel advances Defense Secretary nominee Hegseth on party line vote. Which, think about that. That means that, in all likelihood, every single one of Trump's cabinet picks is going to go this way. Where the Republicans will vote yes, the Democrats will vote no. Every single time. And if a single Republican says no, well, then you're boned. That's just not going to happen, right? So, I think that's what we're going to see a lot of for the next 4 years. I think that's what we're going to see even more of in the next 8, 12 years, right? So, for Republicans to be able to keep, the House, the Senate, and the presidency, which that's not going to happen. But for them to be able to keep the executive branch, right, it's going to take a lot of work from a lot of people. It's going to take, culture building. It's going to take making sure that people are politically aware, because that's the problem with part of this, right, is that there are so many people in this country who aren't like you and me. They don't want to read the politics. They don't want to see politics. They don't care. They're normies, right? They're not interested in living, breathing, eating politics, right? They care once every 4 years when they vote. They rarely vote in the midterms, and that's that, right? So you got to make sure that people who are normies, right, who are not politically engaged, know what's going on. They understand that Democrats are doing this kind of stuff. That, people voted for Donald Trump. He had the public mandate, and they're still trying to frustrate the will of the people, right? So let's get into this from the Hill. The Senate Armed Services Committee on Monday voted to advance Pete Hegseth, President Trump's nominee, to serve as Secretary of Defense, to the floor. The 14-13 vote was strictly along party lines. Senators on the Armed Services panel also voted to waive the 7-day rule that usually requires at least a week to elapse between a nominee's confirmation hearing and a vote to discharge from the committee. Senate Republicans then held a separate vote to advance Hegseth's nomination. Hegseth is one of Trump's most high-profile nominees, and his confirmation hearing last week featured some fireworks as Democrats went on the attack. Senator Gary Peters from Michigan, a Democrat on the committee, called the Monday vote disappointing. It's extremely disappointing for a couple of reasons. One, we think there's some additional information that's likely to come out in the next few days that could be very troubling. How would you possibly know that? I think people have a right to know what that is, he said. That's the real question, is how could you possibly know that? Now, obviously, he's in government. He knows more than we do, right? But how could you possibly know that damning information could come out in the next couple of days, and you're concerned that people aren't going to be able to hear that unless they have something planned? Which, of course, they have something planned. They're going to screw Trump every chance they get, just like they did last term. Even though some of the people are bending to him, right? Even though Snoop Dogg played at his ball, even though Zuckerberg is, bending over for Trump, that doesn't mean that this is over. Even though Bill Gates is bending over for Trump, that doesn't mean that the fight's over. That just means that people are starting to feel safer with Trump. People are starting to feel safer showing the fact that they are conservative, and people are starting to feel safer, the fair weather friends, shall we say, are feeling safer to express conservatism, because we all know that Zuckerberg and Bill Gates don't give a shit. I mean, they're not conservative people. Neither is Snoop Dogg, for Christ's sake. I mean, the man was on trial for murder at one point in time and was shitting all over Trump not more than 4 or 8 years ago, something like that. Like, he's not a conservative. And there's nothing wrong with, welcoming them into the fold. There's nothing wrong with saying, welcome to MAGA. But also, understand that these people aren't conservative. They are just fair weather friends, and so they're not going to help whenever the tides turn, right? So this is one of those things where, they have plans, and hopefully the people that are on our side currently will stay on our side. Hopefully that we're able to maintain, where we're going with this, right? Either way, I think people have a right to know what that is, he said. And two, I believe all of my Democratic colleagues requested meetings with Mr. Hegseth. Certainly my schedule is wide open. We said, give us a time, we're willing to meet whenever it works for you, and we never got a response, he said. To be fair, with the way that they are treating Pete Hegseth, I wouldn't give him a fucking response either. I mean, these people are being assholes, asking stupid, loaded, hyperbolic questions, expecting Hegseth to respond and answer hypotheticals just to make him look bad on the stand, because they're just looking for every angle they can to screw Trump. They're looking for every angle they can to screw his people, right? Because one big thing, which is mentioned in this article we'll talk about, but I'm going to talk about it now just for the hell of it, is Elizabeth Warren, of all people, brought up the fact that Hegseth's wife is invested in some Department of Defense stocks, right? I'm assuming Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, General Electric type deals. And she's all like, since you've expressed disinterest in, post-employment restrictions, I'm afraid you've got, I'm afraid you're going to have conflicts of interest and so on and so forth, right? And I'm just thinking, who are you to talk about conflicts of interest? I mean, Pocahontas over here is part of the Senate who is allowed to insider trade. Nancy Pelosi enriched herself insider trading. Hell, there are plenty of Republicans who've done the same. I think the best earning, in the stock market, mind you, the best earning senator is a Republican. So this whole thing is wild that they're all like, you might have a conflict of interest. But they're allowed to insider trade, and they do it all the time, blatantly. And they're concerned about Hegseth having a conflict of interest. These people have no standards. Well, I mean, I guess they do have standards. They have double standards. Senator Tim Kaine, another member of the panel, argued that Republicans shouldn't have waived the customary 7-day rule since Hegseth only met with one Democrat on the committee. He did not do the courtesy to meet with the minority members, but the majority voted to waive it anyway, he said. This isn't over until we get the floor, he said. I'm energized. The strong opposition to Hegseth expressed by Democrats on the Armed Services panel signals they will use many of the procedural tools at their disposal to slow his confirmation on the Senate floor. Senator Elizabeth Warren, another Democrat on the Armed Services Committee, criticized Hegseth Monday for stock his wife holds in 2 major Department of Defense contractors. Given your household's ownership of stock in several defense contractors and your unwillingness at your confirmation hearing to commit to post-employment restrictions, I'm concerned that you will enter in this role with serious conflicts of interest, Warren wrote in a letter to Hegseth. Republicans appear confident Hegseth will get enough Republican votes to win confirmation later this month. Senate Majority Leader John Thune told NBC's Today in an interview that all of Trump's cabinet nominees have a path to get to confirmation. I certainly hope that's true because, like I said, Democrats will try everything they can to frustrate Trump's nominations, to frustrate his ability to govern, because they don't want this. They don't want what Trump's going to do. They don't want populism. They don't want someone who actually is for the people. They want someone who's going to just, grow the swamp, grow the government, give them more power, give them more money, because they don't want to do their jobs. Look at these people. Half the time, they don't even show up for the damn votes, let alone do their jobs. So, I mean, it's one of those things where they're going to fight tooth and nail to grow the government. They're going to fight tooth and nail to stop Trump from shrinking things, from cutting things, because God forbid they actually do their jobs, which is exactly what they're going to have to do. If Trump cuts all the 3-letter agencies, they will be forced to do their jobs because there will be no one to govern for them. And I tell you, man, it's going to be wild. If they actually have to do their jobs, we might actually see something get done, or the mask will come off, and we'll see we'll see the emperor has no clothes. We'll see the Senate and Congress for the morons that they are. Either way, guys, that's all I've got to say about that today. Next segment's coming up tomorrow. We'll see you then. Make sure to smash that like button, subscribe, and we'll see you then.